Alexander the Great was more than just a king. He was a force of nature, a whirlwind that swept across the known world. By the age of 30, he had forged one of the largest empires ever seen. His armies marched from Greece to India, toppling ancient dynasties and creating a new world in their wake. He was brilliant, charismatic, and driven by an insatiable desire for glory, what the Greeks called pothos. He believed he was a descendant of heroes like Achilles and Heracles, and he lived his life trying to surpass their legendary deeds. His story is one of incredible achievement, a young man who redrew the map of the world and dreamed of a future where cultures could blend and thrive together under his rule. He was a conqueror, but also a visionary, a builder of cities, and a patron of knowledge. But even titans can fall. In the spring of 323 BC, Alexander was in the magnificent city of Babylon. This city, with its towering ziggurats and famous hanging gardens, was to be the new heart of his vast empire. He was busy planning his next great adventure, a campaign into Arabia. He was at the absolute peak of his power, a living legend adored and feared by millions. The future seemed limitless, another world to conquer, another ocean to cross. Yet within this vibrant hub of power and ambition, a shadow was about to descend. The man who had survived countless battles, who had stared down charging elephants and faced down armies 10 times the size of his own, was about to meet his final, unmovable enemy. The end began not on a battlefield, but at a party. After a long day of preparations and religious sacrifices, Alexander joined his admiral Nearchus for a banquet. The wine flowed freely, as it often did in the Macedonian court. After that feast he was invited to another celebration with his friend Medius of Larissa. He drank late into the night. The next day he felt unwell, a fever took hold. At first no one was overly concerned. Alexander was young and strong, he had always recovered before, but this fever was different. It did not break. Day after day it grew worse, slowly and relentlessly stealing the strength from his body. The great king, the man who had commanded vast armies with a single word, was now confined to his bed. He grew weaker with each passing day, his powerful voice reduced to a whisper. His generals, the battle-hardened men who had followed him across deserts and mountains, gathered anxiously. They watched helplessly as their leader, their source of inspiration and invincibility, withered before their eyes. The official court journals, known as the Royal Diaries, documented his decline. They tell a story of a slow, agonizing slide into oblivion. After about 2 weeks of intense suffering, Alexander the Great, the conqueror of the world, could no longer speak. He was gone. From the very moment Alexander's breath left his body, questions began to fly. How could this happen? How could a man who seemed more god than mortal simply die from a fever? The official story pointed to an illness, perhaps malaria, which was common in the marshy lands around Babylon. Or maybe it was typhoid fever, contracted from contaminated water. These diseases were deadly, and could certainly strike down even the strongest of men. His body was racked with pain, chills, and a fever so high, it left him delirious. This theory paints a picture of a tragic but natural end for a man who had pushed his body to its absolute limits for over a decade of non-stop campaigning. But many were not satisfied with this simple explanation. It felt too ordinary, too mundane for a figure as extraordinary as Alexander. Whispers of foul play soon filled the corridors of the palace. The idea of poison took root and quickly grew into a popular theory. Some said the poison was administered in his wine during that final banquet. It was said to be a special kind of poison, one that worked slowly, mimicking the symptoms of a natural disease. This would have been a clever way to kill a king, making it look like the gods themselves had claimed him. The story of poison added a layer of dark glamour and intrigue to his death, fitting for a life filled with so much drama and conflict. Who would dare to poison Alexander? The list of potential suspects was long and distinguished. Some pointed a finger at Antipater, the old powerful general left to govern Macedon in Alexander's absence. Alexander had recently summoned Antipater to Babylon, and many believed it was to punish him. Perhaps Antipater, fearing for his life and power, arranged for his son, Cassander, to deliver the poison. The ancient sources even name a potential accomplice: Aristotle, the great philosopher and Alexander's former tutor, who had a falling out with his famous student. It's a shocking accusation, linking one of the greatest minds in history to one of its most infamous potential crimes. Other theories are even more dramatic. Some ancient writers claimed that Alexander, despondent over the death of his beloved companion Hephaestion, and weary of the world, took his own life. This version portrays a man broken by grief, a hero who chose his own end rather than face a world without his soulmate. A more modern medical theory suggests he may have died from a condition like Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare neurological disorder that could explain his paralysis but also why his body reportedly did not decompose for days after his death. The mystery is that all these theories, from illness to poison, from a broken heart to a rare disease, all seem plausible. Alexander's death created a power vacuum like no other in history. He had built an empire that stretched from Greece to the Indus Valley, but he had left no clear plan for who should rule it after him. His wife, Roxana, was pregnant, but his heir was not yet born. When his generals gathered around his deathbed and asked him to whom he left his kingdom, his final whispered words were said to be, "Toi kratistoi," to the strongest. Whether he actually said this or not, it was the perfect recipe for disaster. It was like throwing a crown into a stadium full of ambitious, armed, and ruthless men, and telling them to fight for it. The chaos began almost immediately. His generals, men who had been friends and comrades in arms, now looked at each other as rivals. They were known as the Diadochi, the successors. At first they tried to hold the empire together. They agreed to a settlement, dividing the vast territories among themselves as governors, or satraps. They would rule in the name of Alexander's unborn son and his intellectually disabled half-brother, Philip III. But this arrangement was fragile, a thin piece of paper trying to hold back a flood. The bonds of loyalty to Alexander had been the glue holding everything together, and with him gone, that glue had dissolved completely. The empire soon fractured. Ptolemy, one of Alexander's cleverest and most cautious generals, took control of Egypt. He famously hijacked Alexander's funeral procession, stealing the king's body and taking it to Alexandria, a move that gave him immense prestige. Seleucus carved out a massive kingdom for himself in Persia and the East. Antigonus, nicknamed the One-Eyed, tried to grab the whole empire for himself, leading to decades of war. These were not small squabbles. They were epic conflicts known as the Wars of the Diadochi. For nearly 50 years, the world Alexander had conquered was torn apart by the very men who had helped him build it. In this brutal power struggle, Alexander's own family became pawns and ultimately victims. His mother, Olympias, his wife Roxana, and his young son, Alexander IV, were all murdered. They were threats to the ambitions of the new kings, living symbols of a dynasty that had to be erased. By the time the dust settled, Alexander's empire was shattered into several new kingdoms, ruled by the families of his generals. The dream of a single, unified world was dead. The legacy of unity had been replaced by a reality of division, a world of warring Hellenistic states that would dominate the Mediterranean and the Middle East for centuries to come. Why, more than 2,000 years later, are we still so captivated by the death of Alexander the Great? It is because his death is not just the end of one man's life, it marks a pivotal turning point in world history. It represents the sudden, shocking end of an era of unparalleled conquest and the violent birth of a new age. The mystery itself is compelling. Was it a simple illness, a tragic twist of fate? Or was it a dark conspiracy, a betrayal at the heart of power? The lack of a definitive answer allows us to keep asking questions, to play detective with history, and to imagine the different paths the world might have taken if he had lived. The story of what happened after his death is a timeless lesson in power, ambition, and the fragility of even the greatest human achievements. Alexander built an empire larger than any before it, but he failed to secure its future. His general's struggle for control teaches us how quickly unity can collapse into chaos when a strong leader is gone. It is a story that has been repeated throughout history, from the fall of Rome to the collapse of modern states. The fight among the successors is a raw human drama about loyalty, betrayal, and the corrupting influence of absolute power. It shows that even the closest companions can become the deadliest of enemies when a throne is at stake. Furthermore, the world that emerged from the wreckage of Alexander's empire profoundly shaped our own. The Hellenistic kingdoms founded by his generals spread Greek language, art, and ideas across a vast area. This fusion of Greek and Eastern cultures created a vibrant new civilization. The city he founded in Egypt, Alexandria, became the intellectual capital of the world, home to a great library and brilliant minds that made huge advances in science, mathematics, and philosophy. The story of his death is therefore the beginning of another story, the story of the Hellenistic Age, a crucial bridge between the classical Greek world and the rise of Rome. Ultimately, the mystery of Alexander's death endures because Alexander himself endures. He remains a figure of immense fascination, a genius, a tyrant, a visionary, a godlike hero. His life was so extraordinary that his death demands to be equally so. We are drawn to the image of the unconquerable hero brought down not by a sword in battle, but by a fever, or perhaps a drop of poison, in a quiet room. It reminds us of the universal truth that all power is temporary, and that even the greatest among us are mortal. His story, from his meteoric rise to his mysterious fall and the chaotic aftermath, is a grand epic that continues to challenge, inspire, and haunt us to this day.